Mark readers, chapter 16, you've done it, gotten to the end of the Gospel of Mark. As we saw in chapter 15, the first witnesses to the death, burial, and now resurrection of Jesus Christ are women. Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James, and Salome. They are the first ones who see and proclaim the gospel being the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. It was women. Now, the ending of Mark has proven so difficult, especially to the early church, that they didn't like where it ended. So, almost a whole extra chapter, at least a half a chapter, was added on. The Roman Catholics view these extra 11 verses, beginning verse 9 all the way to 20, as canonical, as authoritative, but they were almost certainly not the original ending of Mark. In chapter 16, there's no you don't see Jesus. There's no visitation. There's no word from him. There's no great commission. There's no meeting between him and the disciples. Well, that proved to be so difficult that they tacked those types of things on at the end. Instead, Mark has something, though, that is true to his own voice. The early church wanted Mark to end similar to how Matthew and Luke ended, again with an appearance to the disciples and maybe a great commission, but this sort of loses Mark's distinctive voice. As we saw in chapter 1, John the Baptist just appeared out of nowhere. It was just a voice in the desert calling. There was no prologue, there was no introduction, all of a sudden it was just John. Well, in the same way, Mark's going to end his gospel with just a giant period and just leaves you hanging. There's no nice conclusion, there's no nice story with Jesus, it's just over. So, an angel appears to the women, telling them to go tell his disciples that Jesus has gone before you into Galilee. There you'll see him just as he told you. They fled from the tomb, trembling with astonishment that had seized them. They said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. That seems like a hard ending, but it's really similar to the tone that Mark has presented throughout the gospel. That is, Jesus, in one sense, remains constantly hidden. He won't reveal him. He reveals himself only to those who believe. So this ending, although seemingly difficult, is the same type of ending that we have in our own lives. Have any of you ever seen Jesus risen from the tomb? He ever appeared to you physically? You ever touched him? Has he ever appeared to you as a disciple? Has he ever sent you out on a great commission? No. Instead, what you get is a bunch of stories that if you want to let doubt creep in, you can let it. How do you know they're true or not? Throughout Mark also, we see when Jesus does reveal something or some truth comes out, oftentimes people are trembling and they're astonished. They don't know how to integrate it into their daily lives. And either they go and tell everyone the wrong thing, like remember, we saw Jesus heal someone and they'd go blab everything. They'd go, hey, a healer's here, or they wouldn't know what to say about him. What happens in Mark is people cannot seem to find the right words to say about Jesus. And so here at the end of Mark, we see the women say nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. Mark here is leaving a cliffhanger for us. What are we going to do? What are we going to believe? Will we actually believe that he rose from the tomb? Or will we refuse to integrate who Jesus really is, that he is king, a powerful healer, and yet he's come to die, and that we have to experience that defeat also if we're going to live and be victorious? Can we integrate that, or will it so confuse us that we say nothing to anyone because we're afraid, because we can't grasp it? Now, something we haven't talked about very often is that Mark almost certainly wrote his gospel to the community in Rome that was having to live with Roman authorities, Roman guards. Now, look what we said the climax was yesterday in chapter 15. Almost the climax of the whole gospel was one person did believe. One person saw divinity finally seen in suffering, that the Messiah was defeated, and yet it was actually in defeat that he was victorious. That's a paradox. It doesn't seem to make any sense. One person saw that. Who was it? It was a Roman centurion. Truly, this man was the Son of God. Now imagine Mark is writing to his community in Rome, a community of Christians, maybe some Jewish converts. And he tells his Jewish community, his Christian community, his believing community, he tells them that the one person in his gospel that finally got it right was a Roman guard. What a challenge Mark is throwing down to his community then. Mark is saying, hey, if a Roman centurion that is, to Mark's community, they're their day-to-day enemy, the day-to-day person they have to contend with and struggle with, and that's always harassing them and at times persecuting them. If the one person that saw it was a Roman centurion, well, community, Christian community, surely you can see, you can understand. If the Roman centurion did it, you surely can do it. But again, you're welcome, of course, to read the rest of these extra verses. This is the end of Mark, and he leaves it to you to decide. Is Jesus alive? Is he not? This is an interesting note, though. There you will see him just as he told you. You will. You, Christian, as you go and work and believe, as you go and testify, as you go and do your job as Christians, as you go and work and believe, there you will see him. You will encounter him just as he told you. We could take that option, or we could again refuse to integrate who Jesus really is, that victory is seen in defeat, that he reigns from a cross, that he has not yet fully revealed himself. We could take all that in and hold it by faith, even though it seems to make no sense. Hold it by faith. Or we could take the other option, say nothing to anyone, because we're afraid. We don't know what to do with it. Mark has left it now for you to decide what you're going to do. This is fitting like it was for all of his gospel. What will you do? Take care. Hope you enjoyed the study.